Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our December 8th regular council meeting. So if we take a look at our agenda, first of all, I'll ask if there's any additional items to the agenda. None? Okay, seeing none. Adoption of the agenda. I see by consensus. Who's in favor? Yep, looks like unanimous consensus on the approval of the agenda. Adoption of the previous minutes. We got a few sets of meeting minutes there. Two from the special council meeting and our regular council meeting minutes from November 24th. Is there any, let's look at the first regular council meeting minutes from November 24th. Is there any additions, corrections to those minutes? You all had a chance to review them? Through consensus then, are we in agreement? Yep, unanimous. Okay, we'll move down to the special council meeting minutes for November 25th. Again, we all had a chance to review these. Any additions, deletions, corrections? None? Okay, looks like by consensus. Oh, Councillor Kush? Oh, you're consenting? Okay. I seen your head shaking earlier, so. Okay, we're all good. And moving down to the third one, special council meeting minutes for November 26th, 2025. All good? Any corrections or deletions or anything? No. So we're good with consensus then? Yeah. Okay, good. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, down to item number 3, which is delegations. Mount View Power. I'll turn this over to CAO Williams for introduction then.
Thank you very much, Mayor Daly, and Director Lapointe is here to give council the annual report on the pilot project for this program. Guy, take it away.
Thank you very much. Today, administration is providing, as you know, the program launched, and the early results have been very encouraging. I'm offered funding with a maximum contribution of $3,000 per project. The intent of the program is to support exterior improvements such as signage, painting windows, and landscaping that enhance the overall look and feel of uptown businesses. Despite the short window between approval and launch of the program, we received more than 20 applications with 8 ultimately approved. This response reflects the very strong demand for revitalization support in this area. I just want to revisit why we chose the Uptown District specifically for this program. The retail gap analysis identified Uptown as a priority area for revitalization. High anticipated demand made it important to concentrate efforts for maximum impact. And of course, a strong and vibrant downtown contributes directly to community pride. All of the approved projects have now been completed. The report before you includes before and after photos for each project for your reference. And administration intends to continue the program in 2026 under the same framework with an increased total budget of $30,000 to better meet demonstrated demand. With that, I'm happy to answer anything you may have.
Thank you, Director Lapointe. Councillor Botts?
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to Director Lapointe. I'm very, very happy with this report. I thought the before and after pictures are really great, and it's good to see such a change with some of our businesses. My question again, I understand utilizing the Uptown. We'll actually look at expanding this particular Mountain View Power. You've noted it is to encourage increased subscription to View Power. I think we might want to look at expanding this outside the parameters of Uptown Olds, and that's something for council and to consider in the future, and perhaps administration as well. I do believe that it's a great program, and I think I would like to see it expand beyond those borders, if at all possible, at some point in time. So thank you.
Go ahead, CEO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you. And yes, it's something, this was brought up when this program was launched last year by the previous council, that eventually it would be ideal to see this incentive rolled out in larger parts of the community. Given the $20,000 allocation in 2025, the funding pot was relatively small to we thought to allocate across the board. Plus, we had the research done with the 2024 retail gap analysis or commercial gap analysis report that was one of the recommendations, but also digging into the literature that it referenced, there is fairly solid evidence of two main things. First, that local governments investing in facade improvements in downtown cores increases the vibrancy of those downtown cores. And second, that vibrant downtown cores are essential for the health of small towns, especially in rural areas. So that was the logic that went into it. I think with the $30,000, we're getting closer, but and council can provide direction however it seems. There's plenty of demand in Uptown Olds. It's the oldest area of town, and certainly one where we want to focus, I believe, our attention on facade improvements. So the recommendation would probably be to keep it in 2026 at the same general area, which is more or less just east of 49th Avenue and then just west of 51st Avenue, more or less, and then highway to 54th Street. So.
Thank you, CEO Williams. Supplemental? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Bratz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to CEO Williams, thank you for that explanation, and I can appreciate those comments. I'm just asking for eventually that we might look at expanding this, just because I think it is a great program, and I think as Uptown becomes revitalized and becomes a core to our community, other places will start to show wear and tear, and I just think it's nice that if we want to encourage involvement and enrollment and subscription to Mountain View Power, that we expand it just a little and consider looking at it in the future anyway. So thank you for that explanation.
Thank you for those comments. Councilor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director LaPointe. Yeah, just a really great program. I'm excited to see that it's also funding for its expanding. This seems like a great bang for your buck kind of project, where not only are we getting immediate aesthetic visual improvements, but also those less tangible improvements. You said also the community pride, but also investor confidence in having a well-defined looking downtown core. I was curious about how can we improve a lot of the advertising for Mountain View Power? Can we partner with some of these recipients of this so that we can get some brochures, things in people's windows, just advertising, getting our citizens to see the improvements that Mountain View Power is putting right back into their community? Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Taylor, absolutely. Again, this was the first year of the program. I think there's an opportunity there to have a sticker in your window brought to you by Mountain View Power. And I think there could be follow-up stories, which is something that we're already starting to do with other grants through Mountain View Power as well, just shining a light on the good work that the utility is doing.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the director. Just a general comment, as has been mentioned, I agree that all the businesses, kudos to all of them. It's amazing what a little bit of splash of paint and some cladding and a refurbish can do for appearance. So job well done to those businesses, those 8 businesses. Got a nested question within another question. One, can you remind us and me the mechanics of the program? Is cash awarded up front? Does the business have to prove that they've done the refurbishment, the renovation, how that works? And with the increase in the dollars, I think we have a $3,000 cap. Are we looking to increase that and make more dollars available, or will it still be at that same per award basis? Thank you.
Through Mayor Daley to Councillor Wilson. The mechanics of the program, ultimately they submit a a picture of their existing facade, which we use in our advertising after the fact. We ask for details in terms of what work is going to be happening, and they provide invoices in advance for the work that is going to happen. I guess estimates at that point, and once they are confirmed in the program, they don't receive dollars until the work is complete. So it worked quite well on our side of things, and then the final step that they take is provide the after picture for us as well, and a commitment to share that information online as well. At this moment, we're not looking to expand the top level beyond $3,000 simply because the demand outstripped what money we had available at this point. So we're going to play it by ear. And again, if that sort of changes, we may look at changing that threshold in the future.
Thank you. And I have one question for Director Lapointe in that, are we seeing any uptake in our customers to Mount View Power through this program? And if so, or is some of the criteria for being awarded this money being a customer of Mount View Power already, existing customer, I guess?
It was not a requirement to be an existing customer at this point, and I would say difficult to tell if we've seen an uptake. I would say that it might be a better picture once we start doing some actual advertising of the work that was done to see if we influence subscriptions at that point. So maybe a wait and see approach at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to either CO Williams or Director Lapointe. Like this, as I indicated earlier, this is a great report and it's got a lot of valuable information and it is included in the agenda item here, but will this be separated out and either put under Mountain View Power's webpage or the community services for people to have a look at it? So kind of continuing along the lines of what Councillor Taylor said, then people have the benefit of seeing what this grant program is doing, and they don't have to look under several layers to find it. They could just automatically access this report and see the benefit of the program. So I just wondered if it would be taken out of or as a separate item on either of those web pages.
Through Mayor Daly to yourself, I would say absolutely we can make it available. We are planning on having a press release, dedicated press release for this as well. So that information will be made available at that point as well.
That's perfect.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and to Director Lapointe. Maybe it was in here somewhere and I've missed it, but can they be a franchise, or are they just locally owned businesses that can apply for these? Or could it be a franchise store or something that we have downtown?
Through the mayor to yourself, right now we haven't put any parameters in place around the franchise piece. It's just that you have to be within the Uptown District.
Thank you for that. And just a comment and maybe a suggestion from myself. Looking over your report here, just wondering what the criteria was as far as being an acceptable application for the grant money as compared to a non-acceptable. And was the number of applications I heard was overwhelming. It was a great response to this. And were those people that were not successful, were they contacted as to why they weren't accepted?
It's a good question. I think ultimately this is why we had a separate committee make the adjudication for us. They had good discussion about what should qualify. There were 4 sort of general criteria that we had. But really the completion of the application was the biggest thing at this point. Going through it the first time, I would say that some people did not submit detailed estimates. Some people did not provide photos in advance. So the more information that you could provide in advance, it was kind of a determining factor for us.
Okay. Good, thank you very much. Any further questions for Director Lapointe? No? Okay, I'll ask for a motion then. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I make the motion. The council accepts the Mountain View Power Storefront Beautification Report for information.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, takes us down to item number 4, business. 4A, council annual schedule. I'll turn it over to CEO Williams for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And just very briefly, this is something we bring forward this time of year, sometimes early in January, just to give council a heads up on what administration is seeing on your corporate calendar for 2026. It goes into our tentative schedule for divisional reports on a quarterly basis, the RCMP, our third-party groups like the library, et cetera, et cetera. Just for information's sake, but if there's any questions or comments on this, we'll also make any adjustments where necessary. But outside of that, for information at this time.
So just for clarification, this is quite a fluid document, and additions, deletions can be made by it through information as it comes into the office. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yep, that's correct. For example, when we have the MLA visits, MP visits, the letters are sent January 1st, but we're not entirely sure when those individuals may show up. So we may have to move, for example, divisional or RCMP reports, but more so that if council sees something on the list today that, maybe we need something more frequent or don't need to hear from this group or something as frequently, you can make that comments or ask questions on those. But yes, it's just for information's sake and very fluid. It always changes to some extent.
Exactly. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this, council? Seeing none, then I'll ask for a motion to be made. Councillor Cook?
I move that council accepts the council annual standing items schedule 2026 as presented.
Thank you for that. No further discussion. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 4B, rates policy 233C. Again, over to CEO Williams for introduction.
Thank you once again. This, as discussed at last week's committee of the whole meeting, no changes were made since that time. But if council has any further questions, Director Lapointe is here to answer them, but it is as you saw it last Monday.
Thank you for that. Looking to council, if there's any questions, further questions for Director Lapointe? No. All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to be made. Councillor Krush?
I move that council approves rates policy 233C and the recommended rate adjustments as presented.
Thank you for that. I'll ask the question. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much for that. And so now we move down to page 39, 4C, Mount View Power Community Grants Fall 2025 recommendations. CEO Williams for introduction.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor Daley, and Director Lapointe is going to lead this one for us again.
Thank you once again. Administration is now presenting the Mountain View Power Grant Committee's fall intake recommendations for council's review and approval. These recommendations were developed in alignment with the grant guidelines and through discussion with committee members. Recommended funding includes the Olds and District Kiwanis Music Festival Society for instrument tuning, the Elks for kitchen revitalization, the Lions for 5 full-service campsites, the Men's Shed for building improvements, the Library for collection development, and the Special Olympics for accessible swim meets. If approved, these projects will bring the total funding awarded through this grant process to approximately $350,000 to date. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you for that, Director Lapointe. Looking to council, do you have any questions for Director Lapointe? Councillor Batts.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Lapointe. Again, a great report. I really like the background information because it certainly provides us all with the information that we need to know why groups have applied and the reasoning for their application. With some of these ones that were per se eligible but didn't get chosen for this round of grant applications, they can reapply, can they not? And the only ones that wouldn't be with the non-eligible ones, and I'm sure that those letters and reasoning sent to those individual groups as to why they were ineligible, and if there was anything in the future, they would be eligible again to apply for different circumstances per se. But yes, I just was wondering if they can reapply, because I thought all of these looked very good, and it would be a tough decision. I would hate to be sitting on that committee to have to pick out of all of the applicants which ones we're going to fund and which ones we are not. Sorry, I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Through Mayor Daley to yourself, yes, they can reapply. I will say that there were actually a couple of the applications where there was some grant funding that was in question, supporting grant funding for their applications, that I think the committee wanted to see if it came to fruition before granting dollars as well. So that was the case in some situations, and some of the grants themselves or applications themselves were not. They could not actually, they weren't eligible. So that is how we ruled them out along the way.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the director, I guess again, a nested question. Can you just talk a little bit about when the next intake will open, and has a dollar value been set for that? And within that, I think we were cautioned, or just given the council was given the heads up previously, margins are kind of tightening with Mountain View Power. Do you have any sense going forward what that could be as far as a pinch point for this program, which is a great program? Thanks.
Through Mayor Daley to yourself, I don't think that there's really necessarily a pinch point in terms of the overall granting dollars at this point. There is growth within the utility itself. So again, we're seeing more subscriptions come in, but the growth of the revenue itself is sort of stagnated. So, you know, it's sort of status quo for the timing at this point. In terms of the second part of your question, spring intake is usually sometime in March, and we review them in April, roughly at this point. So we'll give everybody lots of notice in terms of the next intake.
Excellent, thank you. CEO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And just a general comment that all things Mountain View Power will be one of the many topics on Council's next service level or first service level meeting, because it has a lot of tentacles, whether it be the Healthcare Professionals Committee, Public Art Committee, this grant program, the Storefront Improvement Program, our internal events like Canada Day. So certainly making Council aware, and then trying to get a general sense of where Council sees Mountain View Power making the most impact. We've seen great success. I can't say much against anything we fund. With the community grants program, though, in particular, even though Council has the policy, I believe it's 804C, it's relatively open-ended at the moment, but when it was first introduced in 2023, and something we give direction to the committee, expediency is number one. That if we see that there's been a previous applicant that hasn't expended all their funds, or they don't have matching funding lined up quite yet, that is a pretty immediate hit against the application. So the direction at the time was that we want these dollars to work as fast as possible in the community in a way that either drives social or economic benefit. Facility enhancements, especially town-owned facilities. You see the old men's shed there, which is in a town-owned building. We saw similar grant approvals in recent years for other town-related assets, like the skate warming shack the Kiwanis Club took on at the outdoor rink. So I think that's a burgeoning kind of topic, especially as we look towards the renewal of things like Centennial Park, the washrooms and outbuildings there. Mountain View Power, in partnership with some community organizations, has the opportunity to make those impacts. So even though it's not on the table today, I thought it would be worthy of just comment that you will soon have the whole Mountain View Power pie in front of you to understand and adjudicate.
Thank you for that information, and it looking back and then seeing what we have now, it would be hard to imagine what we would have or not have if it was not for the Mountain View Power grants and assets that they put into our community. So kudos to all our customers, and I hope it continues to build. It's been a great program. So with that, is there any other questions or comments for Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. And through you to Director Lapointe, like, I understand these have very few strings attached. Like, are there some strings attached to these grants? And I was also wondering, can we make sure that there's a string attached about some kind of reciprocal advertising? I don't know, I brought it up before in the previous item with the storefront revitalization. I just worry that not enough people know of the benefits that signing up to Mountain View Power has to the entire community. I just want to make sure that that word is getting out, and if we're giving these large grants, just have a little bit of a string attached, perhaps. Thanks.
Through Mayor Daley to yourself, absolutely, that could be something that we look at, and I think that will be something that comes forward to council along with some other guidelines as well that we're reviewing at this point. So having strings attached is probably a good thing because, again, the number of applications that we received were $132,000 and we were only able to grant out $76,000. So making sure that we're very specific about what we want to achieve in the community is important as well.
Go ahead, CAO Williams.
Thanks, and through you, and just to latch on to what Director Lapointe said, we do have existing strings, so to speak, that each applicant has 1 year from the date of funding to submit a grant report to our corporate services division, and that's where we match up the application with what was actually done. And in some cases, one this year, we've actually had money returned to us because they did not spend the entire amount. So it's not as, I guess, cumbersome nor heavy-handed as what you see in the provincial federal programs, but we do have that back-end piece that seems to be working okay. But for the advertising piece, it's outside of the photo op that for all these, you'll be invited to we have a giant check with the MVP logo on it, and that's kind of our main driver right now, along with the website, but we're looking to improve that on a regular basis as best we can.
Good, thank you very much. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, do I have somebody who would like to make this motion? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that Council approves the Mountain View Community Grant Committee's recommendation as presented and listed below the amounts for a total of $76,900 for the total amounts of funds dispersed.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor then? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, it takes us down to page 79, item 4D, Olds Fiber Limited amended 2024 financial statements. And I'll turn that over to CAO Williams for introduction. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and Director Linderman is going to lead us through this item.
Thank you. As part of the Olds Fiber sales agreement with TELUS, there are several stages of holdbacks. Before releasing any of these holdbacks, TELUS has requested some changes to OFL's financial statements. These are a restatement given further information that was received upon closing of the sale. So there were two entries that were made. One affected inventory and retained earnings, and this was due to a physical inventory count that was conducted after closing. And then the second is an impact to total assets and total liabilities, and there is no impact on this adjustment to the overall profit and loss. So the total impact of these transactions is an increase to the operating loss of $198,652. Once council has approved these financial statements, TELUS will approve the first holdback release, which is expected to be around $500,000. And I would open up to any questions on that.
I had one question initially right off the bat. What was the total amount of this holdback right from the start? Well, I've seen 550 and I've seen 500. So,
So the total holdback is $550,000, and we're expecting adjustments of around $45,000 to be made to that, so approximately $500,000 will come to us.
excellent, thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to either Director Linderman or C.O. Williams, and correct me if I'm inappropriate in asking this question or if I've forgotten something that I've been informed somewhere along the way, but with this holdback that's coming forward, we're applying this directly back to the debt that is owed by OFL, are we not? Or were we planning something different, or is that not the right type of question to ask today?
Thank you. Through the chair. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is still council's decision. The idea as it stood in November 2024 was that we have 3 holdback periods, one right now, one in August 2026, and the large and final one in November 2026. At that time, council will be presented with another repayment plan on that OFL debenture, and it'll be for council to decide at that time. I think as we get into closer to spring, but early winter, we're going to have a larger talk around debt because as was presented during budget, the land sale revenue is something council has to decide upon of how to allocate those dollars, and debt repayment will be part of that conversation. So I think you'll have a lot of opportunity to understand our current liability picture, but long way of saying yes, but.
Thank you for that. I understand. I was trying to recall exactly what the discussion was, and it seems like that was a long time ago already. So I appreciate that information, and I think that will answer a lot of our questions down the road for certain. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to either the CAO or to the director. Without going into a lot of the detail, can you just talk a little bit about how this process works? I understand this is exactly why this holdback and one or two of the other ones was set up for these post-close adjustments, which nonetheless are very painful to take. Can you talk a little bit about the process, and are we totally at TELUS's mercy for this one? They just crunch the numbers and say, hey, there was this error, this misstatement, and we just accept it, or push for a little bit and then they tell us, forget it, we're holding you accountable? Thanks.
Thank you for the question, and through Mayor Daly. So when the agreement was signed, each of the 3 holdback periods each have their own reasons. So just to focus on this one right now, as Director Lindeman mentioned, inventory, accounts receivable and payable, and some contractual stuff probably mixed in there too. You make your best guess at the time of closing, but then you have to do things like inventory counts that may take a few weeks or months to better understand. You have to close or amend some contracts and finish up more or less the bank reconciliation. So 550 was the guesstimate that was made by TELUS and our mergers and acquisitions lead, Stage Left Partners, and it came up $45,000 approximately short. That number is still being finalized, but it's pretty close. But that's why we also hired professionals to do this for us. May not come as a surprise, but TELUS Communications is much more knowledgeable and agile in negotiating mergers and acquisitions than the town of Olds is. So this boutique M&A firm, Stage Left Partners, they've been still working on this file as part of that initial payment and contract. So I'm very confident in the work they've been doing, and that this is the best version of the process we could have gotten based on the year-long or so sale agreement in 2024.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. To probably CAO Williams then. So all the holdbacks in total are about 1.5 million. Is that what we're kind of saying?
Through the chair, about 2.2.
2.2. So, okay. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none? Go ahead, Councillor Cook.
Just specifically looking at the accounting policies under Section D, it does state that things like vehicles and computer equipment, they're depreciating at a 30% value. So that would be a vehicle is completely worthless after just over 3 years. Is that something that they took into account as of the purchase date, or is that still something that we're on the hook for while these are still depreciating?
No, essentially, everything would have been included in this holdback right here. So whether it be vehicles or equipment or other assets, everything would be depreciated as far as we're concerned fully at this closure date. So $45,000 is that cumulative total of what we're responsible for.
Okay, good. Can I have somebody make a motion then, if we're, Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daly. I move that the amended financial statements for Olds Fiber Limited be approved as presented.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? None? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much for that. Okay, moving down the list to page 106, item 4E, capital and operating budget. Again, I'll turn it over to CAO Williams for introduction.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor, and Director Lindeman's going to lead us through a brief presentation before we get to final deliberation on the 2026 operating and capital budget. Sheena.
Thank you. This first slide we've seen a few times now. We're finally at our final meet here, hopefully, considering the final budget for 2026 operating and capital. In your agenda package today is the 2026 operating budget for a total of $37,343,838. The projects included within that budget that were presented to council are COLA at 2%, the new FTE funding, service level costing, public service employee, ALI program assessment, pathway repairs and maintenance increase, 2 summer staff, hydrant repair program, the valve inspection and repair program, and then water and wastewater repairs and maintenance increases. So with those included in there, that leaves us at a $654,877 deficit. And then this deficit, as I've explained before, can be funded in a few different ways. So your typical tax revenue increase, as I've mentioned before, a 1% increase is equal to $118,500, which is equal to $2.58 a month for the average household. That's 1%. In order to cover this $654,000 deficit, we were looking at about a 5.5% tax revenue if you go just strictly that route. There is also the ATCO franchise fee, which is actually in the agenda further on here, a proposal to council. That increase for 2026 would be approximately $115,000. That would start in April, and that's why it is prorated to the $115,000. And that increase would be approximately $2.35 a month for the average household. Other options include, as CEO has mentioned, proceeds from land sales. We've talked about that a little bit. And then reserves. All of these options will be discussed further come spring. So for now, we've got it in here, tax revenue to balance the budget at the 5.5%. But when the tax bylaw comes back to council is when we will make the decision on exactly how council wants to fund that. It's not necessarily because you approve the budget today, you're not approving a 5.5% tax increase. You're just approving those projects in this amount of $654,000. Again, it was in your agenda packages, so if we were to pass it, as I said, with the tax revenue at 5.5%, This is the impact to our residents at $277 increase, or $23 a month. This is just a quick glance at our operating reserves. So should we choose to take some from there, we would come from the tax stabilization fund, which I'm projecting at the end of 2025 to be at $227,000. Total operating reserves are just over $1.4 million at the end of 2025. Moving on, utility rates also included in your agenda package. So to help cover those projects as were listed previously, we do operate on the full cost recovery system. These are the changes that will have to happen to our utility rates in order to cover those. So the water flat fee will increase by $1.43. Water consumption increases 43 cents. Wastewater flat fee is a decrease of 45 cents, and the wastewater consumption is a decrease of 5 cents. Total impact to our typical residential home will be $4.78. Maybe pause there for questions on operating before I move on to capital.
Thank you, Director Lindeman. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dowling, through you to Director Linderman, and realizing that we'll probably be discussing this fully during spring budget adjustments. But so the 5.5 is compared to, we normally had budgeted for 5% tax revenue. Increase of 5.5 is a bit higher, but not necessarily something that is earth-shattering per se. Because that's one of the things I think that we need to consider, and I have kind of touch base with other council as far as leaving our tax rate as is without changing it to fit within that 5%, or look at increasing the 5%. Maybe we will have to do that. And I think that council will need to have that fulsome discussion come spring adjustments. And the one thing that we did discuss necessarily quickly, which will be a little probably late to make that change now, is when we were discussing COLA, although I certainly stand behind and support a 2% COLA increase to staff. Perhaps maybe council could be excluded from that. I don't know that that's going to make a big difference to any of us, but it's a small portion, a very small savings, but perhaps maybe that's something to be looked at, because we as council have not fulsomely sat down yet and discussed our budgets and how we can find some cost savings as far as our own professional development and conference attendance and such. So hopefully by spring adjustment, we can, budget adjustments, we can make some of those changes, perhaps maybe not to the COLA, but to the rest of those processes. And I just wanted to make that comment so that people are aware that that's some of the things that council has discussed, and we would like to see maybe come forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz, for bringing that forward. We have had preliminary discussions on that, so it's good to have it brought forward. Any other questions or comments? Marianne, Councillor Overwater.
Thanks, Mayor Dan Daly. I myself need to know where my council budget really is. In order for me to make some decisions, I think I need to make them before spring adjustment, because there are things coming up that possibly council, somebody wants to go somewhere to attend something, and I'm not even sure what my budget is. I know you've sent out something, but it had other people's names on it, and I need to know where I stand with where I'm supposed to be in this whole budget process. So I'd like to know when we are going to have that conversation. I believe it should be before spring. So when are we going to do that? That's my question.
Director Lindeman.
Thank you. So because of the election being the end of October and it being a lot for council for right when you start, I decided to just carry forward 2025 training budgets as a whole to 2026. So there are funds there. And then my thought was in January, we would meet as a group. You have your allocated funds and then decide what you want to go to and what not. If the end result is an increase, then we would bring that to spring budget adjustments or a decrease.
Go ahead.
Thank you. At least I have a date in my head that I can get my head around, that January will be something that council is all going to sit down and decide who's going to go where, or who's going to take what course, or, because I think that's important, because they're all coming up, these courses. And if we want to take them, we need to make sure that they are in our budget, or, you know, maybe one person signs up and we all sit around here and watch it or something. But I'd like to hear that we are going to do this in January. Thank you, Director Lynn.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and I guess further along to my earlier comments, I guess I kind of understood that, and I should have been a little clearer in my explanation of what I assumed was going to happen, and I agree. I think that we do have to have a very early discussion, and that was part of what I had hoped would be happening. I didn't mean, but I just meant that the changes would come through at spring adjustment, either increase or decrease, and I would personally like to see us decrease our budgets as a council overall. That's just my own personal preference, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Krusch.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to Director Lindeman. Can you just refresh my memory, cost recovery on water utilities? That refers to the fact that we don't profit off the water utility, but we also don't subsidize it through taxes, is that correct?
Correct. So all utilities expenses are paid through utility rates.
Thank you. All good comments and all good questions. So, any further comments or questions? All right. Then I will ask for a motion. Oh, about capital. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You get to hear from me a little bit more.
All good.
So the capital budget was included in your agenda. I've just got a quick synopsis here. Total was 2.88 million. This is being funded through utility rates, so 530,000 is coming from utilities. Grants, just under $2 million is from grants. A reserves transfer, 224,000, and then other 134,000, and that being the sale of equipment or Mountain View County is where those funds come from. Quick glance at our capital reserves. So typically, most of our asset purchases come from that asset replacement rehabilitation reserve. In the case of this capital budget, it is a utility truck that is being purchased for $200,000. So that will come from that utility capital reserve, which is just about $400,000 right now. So that will be cut in half. And then the other is that $24,000 for the dog park, which will be coming from that Ducks Unlimited funding that we had. And that is it for capital, which I would open up to any questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions on capital? Councillor Wilson.
Mayor Daly, I'll go back into the time machine, and I have a question on operations, if I may, if I'm allowed.
It's up to Director Linderman.
Through
It's all
you
up
to
to her.
Through you to the director. No, I think it's worth mentioning within the RFD, like you indicate, year over year expenses are up 2.6%. So when you factor in inflation and hopefully a little bit of population growth, 2.6% year over year is not exorbitant, I don't think. But in addition to the projects which you touched on, the operating cost projects, could you remind me and our many listeners, viewers, what were some of the pressures? Like, obviously we had inflationary pressures, we had health or employee benefit pressures, and the ONED debenture. Is that kind of put it in a nutshell? That's the bulk of pressures that we had to overcome before we even talked about any additional spending? Thank you.
Correct. So the ONET debenture was a large one, $550,000. Franchise fees going down about $100,000, and then inflation.
Okay. C.O. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to Councillor Wilson's questions as well. And it's important when we talk about inflation, Well, for the sake of ease, we use the Consumer Price Index published by Stats Canada, usually for Alberta, month to month, year over year. That takes in a very large basket of goods, most of which aren't directly applicable to municipalities. When we look at, get into, let's say, the construction category of CPI, which again is a very large subset of that basket, we've seen our asphalt and concrete costs over double and triple the last few years. Obviously, diesel, gasoline, ebbs and flows. Contracted services, the cost of trade labor has gotten higher and harder to come by as well. We saw it with even the renovation of this building as well. Software costs also. So even though we judge CPI maybe trending for the entire province of Alberta at 2.18%, September to October, I would say if we spent time and did a more direct municipal consumer price index, if I had to call it that, it would be substantially higher than that, just based on our main consumables within those very broad categories. So inflation can't be understated as an expense. Like the own-it debenture, of course, health benefits are rising, but it gets more and more expensive to do business, as it does for a household. But our categories seem to rise quite faster than the average in that CPI.
Totally understandable. When we're operating in this line of business, those are the top increases within those inflationary factors as well, construction and mechanical machines, right? So, understandable. Any further comments? Are you finished up now?
Not.
Okay, continue on.
Moving on, so we also included in this budget presentation, we have our 3-year financial plan and our 5-year capital plan. So as per the MGA, each municipality must prepare each year a 3-year financial plan, so that is your operating plan for the next 3 years, and a 5-year capital plan. So I'm going to go over them relatively quickly, as they are, like I said, just plans, and they are only received as information. You don't have to approve them or accept them. So the 2027 to 2029 financial plan, there were a few assumptions in making this, so I just want to run through those. There's no increases to property tax or franchise fee revenue in there. An inflationary factor of 2% was put across all goods and materials, contracted services, and utilities. There was an increase of $100,000 each year for the FTEs, and an increase of 1 RCMP member over that 3-year period, plus the 3.5 wage increase that we have been told is coming. Insurance increases of 10% annually, and then all service levels remained the same. And with that, I would open up if there's any questions on the financial plan.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daley, to Director Lindeman. So in your plans, you have no provision for an increase in the tax rate. Why would that be? In my understanding, and you can all correct me if I'm wrong, but if we don't have at least a little bit of an increase to the taxes, that rate, then at the end, I understand the assessment may be going up, but at the end of the day, if we don't have a little bit of an increase to the tax rate for that revenue to come in, then are we not looking at the services that we provide today, we may not be able to provide tomorrow if we don't at least keep up with a little bit of an increase to the taxes rate? Am I on the right path here?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree completely. However, that is a council decision. So I have left it status quo, and then you'll see when you look at the net deficit that's presented, what happens if you leave those tax rates the same. If you leave our tax revenue the same, in 2027, we're looking at a $470,000 deficit, 2028, 800,000, 2029, just over 1 million. So that's why we need to maintain and continue to increase those taxes. Yes.
It is supplemental.
Supplemental, go ahead.
So for the budget that we're looking at today, we're not looking at having an increase to taxes. So again, it goes back, because you're talking about the possible 10% assessment increase. So then we're still not looking at increasing the taxes in order to help us maintain or improve some of the services that we have. Am I missing the whole thing on this?
Go ahead, CEO Williams.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Daley. Essentially, yes. The budget today, to your question that we aren't increasing taxes today. So we're projecting a tax rate decrease in the 3 to 5% range. We are projecting tax revenue increases in the 5% range. And we won't know exactly how that, however you want to define tax increase happens until April or May. But when Director Lindeman just mentioned the 3-year operating 5-year capital plans, and you rightly retorted it didn't have any projected revenue increase. And from administration's end, it's not because it doesn't have to happen, it's just because council hasn't given direction yet. So the way our current, I'll call this long-term planning works, it's more or less a paper exercise to get us compliant with the MGA. If you look in the town's corporate plan, there is a financial strategy section, but in the preamble of that section, it says this is very much a draft. So what I think we're missing as an organization is the lack of a financial strategy. There's never been a plan on what is our 5-year projection in terms of infrastructure, in terms of operating needs, wants, pressures, and then what are we committing through new revenue, either through growth or new taxes on existing properties to meet those demands. A large part of that because we never had things like an asset management program before. We've never took stock of, let's say, our recreation assets to determine, what's sufficient, what's aging, and what are we going to add. And then our service levels. We've never taken a close look at our service levels from an actual service delivery cost perspective, which Budget 2026 aims to start to rectify. So I would say in terms of the 3- and 5-year plans respectively, those are just bookmarks at the time to revisit once we have better data for council to insert, let's say, projected tax rates 3 years out. Administration doesn't want to do that for council, and that's why it's not there. But back to your question on Budget 2026, we aren't projecting, there won't be a tax rate increase at this time. This budget's being passed with a reduction in that tax rate. We are calling for a tax revenue increase, but we won't know for sure what that means for the average household until we see the final assessment report. Right now, we're projecting around that, I think when school and seniors is included, which aren't our taxes, by the way, $23 a month, roughly. So hopefully that answers your question, but happy to try again if not.
I think I'll just come to your office and have a 101. How's that?
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to just a general comment. I mean, that was part of hence the reason why I said we should probably look at leaving our tax rate as status quo this year and perhaps looking at the spring budget adjustments for a better fulsome discussion of this whole process, because I think that eventually when we look at our 5-year potential plan and recognizing the comments that CEO Williams has made, I mean, in 2027, I believe we've got a lot of carry it forwards coming through, plus some big expenditures, and I'm sure that we're going to see a reduction in the provincial funding through our LGFFF, because I believe that it is next year the reduction comes through. So I think that that's why I'm looking forward to having some more discussion, perhaps at service level or definitely at spring budget adjustments, to ensure that we can move forward. And although I don't necessarily like to use the term sustainable, but we have to ensure decisions we make today make our municipality sustainable in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. All really good points. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And similarly, just a comment, and I'll try and be brief, because I too very much look forward to our, call it whatever you want, service level discussions and future discussions around the budget. Clearly, the model and our path forward is not sustainable right now. We're talking about property tax, mill rates, municipal, and whether they should be held flat, slightly decreased, or increased. But as we all know, there's a bunch of interlocking bricks that go with this. We haven't even talked about the education tax, which last year was 12.9% increase. It's going to be something very similar. The senior requisition, which over the last 5 or 6 years has grown 86% for olds in and of itself. So there's a lot of other pressures that come to bear on our residents, i.e. the ratepayer. The model we're under is not sustainable. So at future discussions, we're certainly going to have to look at how the town does business. And we tried to do that. Case in point, naturalization or no-mo, call it whatever you want. And we heard from people in spades, or at least a very vocal few, a vocal portion, the presence and the visibility of the town and how it looks is very important. But tied in with all that is how this town does business and how it's going to do business going forward. And that's everything from service levels, and we've done action around snow removal, the big grass bins and grass clippings and everything. That to me is going to be part of the path forward, as well as the economic growth, which we all know is hopefully on the way. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we've got residential growth happening, but the path we're under right now is not sustainable. And we can't keep coming at the taxpayer, the resident, with more and more tax increase on top of everything else they do. Unfortunately, the municipality is at the bottom end of the trough, right? So we got to try and handle and accommodate what everybody else is doing to us, as well as run our own business. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Lindeman.
Thank you. So I'll quickly run through a 5-year capital plan now. This information has been presented to council over the last couple weeks in kind of segments and sections of capital plans in each department area. This is just bringing it all together. If you look at page 125 of your agenda packages, we have the total. So over the next 5 years, we're projecting $35 million in capital spend. Beginning in 2027 at just under $7 million, 2028 again just under $7 million, and then fast forward to 2031 at just over $9 million.
Any questions on the 5-year capital plan? Councillor Overwater?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. And I guess I just want to respond to Councillor Wilson. I get we only have one taxpayer. However, if we can't get some big industrial businesses to come to Olds, and if our citizens still want the services that we provide, I'm not sure where you propose the money is going to come from if it's not through industrial taxation or through if it's increasing the tax rate for our residents. Like, I don't know how you feel that we could do our business that much more streamlined than what I think our CAO is doing now with his departments. We operate with less staff than what is basically, required for a community of our size. So, I mean, I guess this will be a heavy-duty service level as to where we're going to get this money from if we can't get some big industrial businesses to come here through our economic development department.
Yeah, I fully acknowledge and appreciate Councilor Overwater's comments. I let me get up, but you're right. And it's not necessarily like the utopia. The unicorn is large industrial $750,000 revenue town. So there's a spotlight on ECDEV. But for me, ECDEV encompasses things that we're doing with residential growth, and we've already talked about that. ECDEV is a medium-sized commercial development. Take your pick around that type of retail outlet, but they're out there. Can we land those folks? And then the unicorn for sure is the large industrial to backfill behind Sundial. And we know they're out there. They're landing all around us. We just need to be able to find the special secret sauce to get it in here. And then, in addition to that, maybe we need to change our approach around the budget. And I don't know what that exactly looks like. You're right. All our metrics say that we're better or below average of our peer municipalities, whether that's salaries, wages, staffing, complement, whatever. But maybe we need a little bit more outreach and engagement with our citizens around what solutions, what creativity do they have? I know we run the budget survey. Maybe we need to look at something different than the budget survey to get a sense of what they want. And speaking for the 5 males around the table, perhaps some of our service level discussions will be a significant test of our testicular fortitude as to how far and how much we want to press service level changes. We did try that with naturalization and no-mo. We certainly responded, and we're trying to respond and reach a compromise with our residents there. But service levels for sure are going to be a challenge. And how much latitude do we have to make adjustments there and change the way we do business fundamentally in the town? I don't know. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I believe the reason why there was so much pushback on the naturalization is because it, and I've talked to CAO Williams about this, that possibly a better communication, then all of a sudden nothing is being mowed, and then all of a sudden something is being mowed, and then now it is, now it isn't. Like, nobody really knew what the heck was really going on. So I think that communication needed to be better, and I think we've all acknowledged that. And I'm not really sure what you meant about the 5 testicular around this table. Maybe you want to clarify that. Is it something that Councillor Blatz and I should have?
I don't think so. I just meant for the males in the audience on council, just our courage. And then obviously we'd look for you guys on the female gender to bring that as well to the table, right?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Can we get back on topic, please?
Yes, I think that
Thank you.
we're getting a little off topic here, and we need to bring it back into budget discussions again. Thank you. Okay, any other further comments or questions on budget? And you're done. Thank you very much, Director Lindeman. Any CAO Williams?
Thank you, and just a final comment. So I know lots of talk around tax rates and spring budget adjustments and capital planning and whatever just happened there. But it's important to note that we are in a hole right now. We're not yet at level ground. So that's what financial planning will do for us. Once we get over some of these obvious obstacles, ONET, debentures, debt in general, and then our water loss and I&I, for example, we'll be able to make some more rational decisions with some better data. But for spring, I think there's some key service levels council needs to focus on. Small things like your travel budgets, for instance, perhaps larger things, our water loss and I&I, our whole infrastructure, asset management planning, the future of the sportsplex, that will start to move some of those larger rocks. But this budget right here, it is, I believe, a step in the right direction. It's just difficult because we operate, whether day to day or in 4-year council terms. You're not going to fix this problem in 4 years, unfortunately. This is a problem that's decades in the making, and it's not just the town of Olds facing it. It is eating an elephant, and one bite at a time. It's going to take us a better part of a decade to climb out of this hole. Now, at the same time, to Councillor Wilson's point, of course, engagement's very important, and I believe there's going to be conversations in the very near future about how we do more at engaging outside of the general budget survey we have, or Coffee with Council, see if there's that appetite, and then if there is, those great ideas that we haven't thought of yet. And hopefully there's lots of both. But I just don't want council to get sidetracked with too many of the problems. We have to take an incremental approach while keeping a long-term perspective. And that long-term perspective, I think administration has an idea, but council, you just started. So I can see why you're kind of haven't formed that relationship, let alone long-term perspective yet, of what are the steps needed to get to that mutually agreed upon endpoint. Now, I'm using the date 2031, which just coincidentally is the end of your council term, for instance, or no, not actually past your council term. So that's when I see us objectively improving our financial position. Now, administration will present that to you in the very near future of why we think that is the place, along with those $35 million in projected capital needs. And again, spoiler alert, we can't do all those needs. You have to prioritize. And that's where your short-term decisions ought to tie into a long-term goal. And that's something we don't have right now. So I do like what council has done with this budget. I understand it was, it was a process, imperfect process because of the newness of council and the shortness of the decision making. But you will have a chance in the spring to improve upon this and build your long-term vision over the next 4 years. So outside of that, it is council's budget. It's not administration's budget. As much we do the prep, we do the legwork, but this is a budget you have to take ownership on. And if you don't like it, whether it's today or in April when we bring it back, it can be changed at any time with a council motion. It doesn't have to be at a predetermined set. That if something changes, we have to, I believe, be that flexible to adapt. So I don't want council to think you're signing away the farm here, so to speak. Like, as situations change, as better ideas come forward, we will adapt. That's the end of my rant.
Thank you for your rant, CAO Williams. I agree with you 100% that we're looking at this today, and today is one of those bites from that elephant. And as we look at the 3 and 5 year financial plan going forward, I think we need to have that plan so that we're realistic with what we're going to be up against next year and the year after that and so forth. And so I think it's very, very, proactive of us to look at these plans and realize, as you've seen next year's budget on there, the things that we did not approve in the past 3 meetings that we have now transferred on to next year's budget because they have to get done. They're not going to get fixed by a prayer and a whim. And so we have to be realistic of that. And so appreciate your words, CAO Williams. They are indeed looking forward and giving us a little glimpse of what we're in for the next 4 years. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask for somebody to make the motion on this now. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And before I do that, just clarification from our legislative clerk, Ms. McKinnon. These are 4 separate motions, correct? Okay, thank you. Okay, I will make the first motion then. That the 2026 operating budget in the amount of $37,343,838 be approved as presented. And
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I make the motion that the 2027,
We should vote on this one.
pardon me?
We should vote on this one
okay.
first. Okay. Okay, no further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Now, Councillor Wilson.
Again, I make the motion that the 2027 to 2029 financial plan be approved as information.
Thank you. Are you voting for? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? It passed unanimously as well. For the third motion, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I move that the 2026 capital budget in the amount of $2,888,000 be approved as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any further discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And for the last motion, Councillor Kirsch.
I move that the 2027 to 2031 5-year capital plan be approved as information.
Thank you for that. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Passed unanimously as well. Thank you very much for that, Council, and for the discussion. All right, so that takes us down to page 126, 4F. Again, I'll turn the floor over to CEO Williams for introduction.
Thank you once again, and Director Lindeman will lead us through this one. ACCO franchise fees, which again, this one is not taken into the budget numbers. It is currently status quo at 30%. So this is for spring conversations, but the decision needs to be made in calendar year 2025. So it's just an FYI on that. Sheena, take it away.
Thank you. And just to add to that, there are steps that have to be taken in order to increase the franchise fee. And one of them is advertising, and so you need a few months in order to do this, and that's why it's being brought to you today. So today we're bringing information to council in regard to the ATCO franchise fee. The town of Olds has 2 franchise fee agreements in place, Fortis and ATCO. These agreements give these utilities the authority to operate within the town limits. And as part of this authority, they are required to pay the town a franchise fee. So the Energy and Utilities Board sets the maximum franchise fee percentages that can be set by a municipality. And the request today is to increase the ATCO franchise fee percentage from 30% to the maximum of 35%. It is estimated that in doing this, we will increase our annual revenue by $153,000. This would impact the average household's natural gas invoice by approximately $2.35 a month. In comparison, though, in order to raise this much revenue through taxation, the impact to the average residential household would be approximately $3.60. An increase in franchise fee yields less of an impact on residential and most non-residential property owners than the same percentage increase in property taxes. This is because the franchise fee is levied on every building in town, meaning tax-exempt properties, which make up approximately $300 million of our assessment base, are also paying that franchise fee. And with that, I would open it up to council discussion.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions, comments? Councillor Kusch.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to either CAO or Director Lindeman. What would qualify as a tax-exempt property?
So schools, hospitals, municipal buildings, all of that. Old College.
Good. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the director then. So you said that our budget is in at 25% for the ATCO fee. If we don't change it, any gap that arises, not covered, I guess, through the assessment, I guess I'm just trying to understand what the implication is. If we don't follow through with an increase of 5% to 30%, what the implication is for our budget and revenue intake.
So it's moving from 30% to 35%. Sorry, yep. And so this is just one of those alternative revenues that I had discussed during the operating budget presentation. So as opposed to increasing our tax revenue by 5.5%, we can supplement that a bit with this franchise fee revenue at a lower impact to our residents.
C.R. Williams.
Thank you, and through the chair to add on Director Lindeman said as well. So there's no direct allocation budgeted for right now, as mentioned. We are budgeted at the 30% projected ATCO revenue rates. The increase to 35% would be part of, spring budget adjustments, but more importantly, it's part of what we want to get council discussing, that financial strategy piece. That where it stands right now in my chair, my recommendation is going to be twofold. Either transfer to reserves to help fund capital needs, and this could be a recurring transfer annually in this amount, for example, and the other piece is accelerated debt repayments. And it's something we'll start talking about very early in the new year. So the point of this, to put it as bluntly as I can, is to give us more breathing room to accomplish one or both of those priorities come this April 1st and going forward. The risk of franchise fees in general, as we've seen the last few years, they're very volatile in terms of what Accor Fortis gives to us as a projection versus what we actually see. So it could come to play that even if council chooses to increase by 5%, that we're still short a dollar value of what we're estimating. So that could just have to go to patch the hole in the operating budget. But all things being equal, if the estimates that these two organizations give to us hold, the conversation I wish to bring to council is how do we get more strategic with, operating transfers to reserves or accelerate debt repayments. If you recall in the 2022 organizational study review, it did focus on separating franchisees' revenue from our arts and culture budget, which I do support. We generally have not tied them so closely anymore, but a conversation around revenue in general in relation to how we're funding our reserves and our capital priorities is needed. But that's how I see this ask to council today. If you choose not to raise it, then there's no implication on the 2026 budget. We'll talk about it again next year.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Linderman. It does look like we have some room on Fortis as well, where we're under the maximum. Was there any particular reason why we were focusing on the gas side instead of the electricity side?
I don't think I updated this table. We are at the maximum, sorry, for Fortis. It is at 20%.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Linderman. Do these maximums ever go up, or is this historically where we play this card and it's not something we can ever do again? Thanks.
In my time in municipal government, I've never seen the maximum go up. Whether or not it will, I don't know.
Thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. To Director Linderman, help me with okay, so if you are with a different provider than ATCO, this, you're still charged, like, for example, if you were Direct Energy or if you were, I don't know, whatever else is out there, are you still charged that franchise fee?
Yes. So ACCO is the distributor. Yeah, and so you as a household can choose to go with whoever you wish, but you are purchasing, those companies are purchasing from ACCO. Anyway, yeah.
Thank you. I just have one question. How are we in comparison to other communities when it comes to our franchise fees? Are they maximizing their amounts as well, or is this, maybe it's something new with them as well, seeing the times?
I would have to bring that information back to you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And further to your comment, and just a general comment, and that's one of my concerns with the ATCO fee at 30% now, moving to 35, is I think we are, at least amongst the northern municipalities, and maybe even north and south, we are towards the high end. And I know I just read recently, I think Lacombe raised their rate, and I know different financial circumstances, and you're trying to compare apples and oranges and mangoes and whatever, but I think Lacombe just recently raised their rate from, say, 29 to 31%. They did a review amongst their peer municipalities, comparators, and 30% seemed to be the median. So that's the only thing in the back of my mind. I fully hear and understand the CAO's comments, and certainly intrigued by the ability to start throwing money or putting money into our reserves bank account or paying down debt. But again, I'm looking at that balance with the taxpayer and where our rate is now, which I think is tending towards the higher end amongst our, not only our competitor or comparator municipalities, but most, if not many, of the municipalities in North and South. I'm struggling a little bit.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? C.O. Williams?
Thank you. And to your question, Mayor Daley, it's something we present in the annual financial report, our comparator communities. So communities our size in what we call, our 10 or so peer group, generally speaking, where everyone is near maximization. In smaller communities where there's less industrial, commercial, and when there's less what we call institutional properties, those tax exempt properties like colleges, universities, hospitals, etc., they're lower. But when you look at it as the net take through taxes, franchise fees, utility rates, that's where we do balance out with every community, large or small. So just a brief Googling, communities our size, but certainly larger, Airdrie, Okotoks, that class, they're all maxed out, for example, already. But you look at their non-residential tax rates and their residential tax rates, they are significantly lower than, let's say, the city of Calgary, who may not be maxed out. So just like we try to present a holistic revenue picture, because it's not just fair to focus on taxes or utilities or franchise fees, we are higher than, let's say, towns of 3,000 or 5,000 near us, but we're on par with the towns of Lacombs and Morinvilles, of Blackfalds, of that ilk. And we have much lower tax rates than all of those towns, for example. So it's not quite a simple picture as franchise fees. It is that broader brush that we try to do during initial orientation and budget introduction, and you'll see reported on as a big piece, big focus area in that would be the 2026 financial update in the spring.
So it's a matter of looking at the whole picture, not just parts of it. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dillon. And just a question either to the director or to the CEO. Without risking complicating this, is it possible to put in a tiered structure based on consumption? And so higher consumers may pay a higher rate versus res or non-res? Is that a consideration, or is that just too complicated?
Through the chair, that's not an option, no. The only option is the same brush for everyone. So residential, commercial, all pay the exact same percentage-led consumption fee, so.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, then I will ask for the question or the motion. Thank you, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that council approves the ATCO franchise fee increase from 30% to 35% effective April 1st, 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz, for that. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much for that. So we'll move down to Section 5, Bylaws, page 128 of our agenda. Bylaw 2025-19 Business License, 2029-09 Amendment. To you, CAO Williams, for introduction.
Thank you once again, Mayor Daley, and with me today is Manager James Crozier of Planning and Infrastructure. And we're going to take on this one together. So I'm just I have a brief introduction on this before I get started, and right here, there we are. All right. So I figured take the opportunity to give you a bit of a crash course on business licenses before asking you to amend a bylaw for a fairly specific, non-controversial reason. But business licensing, it's an annual process a town undertakes, and we often get questions on why. Why do these exist? And coincidentally, even before we knew this was coming forward for amendment, the utility bill newsletters for December, which will go out this week, I believe, or next, we have business license as one topic and animal licenses for the second topic. So it's very timely as well. But basically, business licenses help do a few things. From a insurance perspective on zoning, public safety, bylaw requirements, ensuring physical businesses are meeting those. From the funding, it also supports our delivery of economic development services and subsidize some of our planning and development functions as well. So the costs and benefits to the town and to businesses. The fees range generally for permanent businesses, $125 to $225 per year. That's if it's a business based in Olds or a out-of-town business, contractors, mobile vendors, et cetera, that come into town on a frequent basis to do business. Also, we have smaller permits for temporary businesses. If there was like a seasonal fruit stand, for example, that may only operate a few days a year, there's scaling for that, which may run from $25 to $50. But annual revenue is about $107,000 is what we're projecting for 2025. The Economic Development Initiatives Funds, which is the bulk of that funding, in general, marketing and promotions, our rural entrepreneur and rural renewal streams on the immigration front when the RRS is open, investment attraction, and our RBSN support network as well, which is our partnership with Community Futures. And also, I think from certainly my personal perspective, the data and connection points it provides us to our business community is one of the key features that the business license process offers. I'll get to that point in a second. So some stats on business licenses. There's a target in the corporate plan, which is part of the Office of the CAO's division for economic development, that we want to see a 2% annual growth in business licenses. So broadly speaking, we compare 2024 to November 30th of this year, we're at a 3.24% growth rate, which is generally positive. But of course, not all businesses or business licenses are equal as well. So we drill into the stats a little bit. This is the one I generally look for, the most important. New resident-based businesses. Because we could have, when we have large buildings being built in Olds, lots of new contractors filter in on a temporary or a permanent basis. So those might not provide the exact same benefit, but I should stop there before I get myself in trouble. One of the ancillary benefits of, let's say, these two large apartment buildings and the upcoming ones, those contractors are eating, staying, getting gas in Olds. There's a huge economic spin-off to temporary businesses and certainly to construction in general. But when we talk about sustainable business growth, I think this chart tells the best story, that we're seeing above that 2% growth rate in new resident businesses in 2025 alone. And even though I think we've seen higher than average, certainly higher than average, I think 2% is still a reasonable target to expect and to chase. Now, this is, you don't need this, it's small for a reason, it's not that important, but it's just to prove a point that in the business license process, we try to get as much data from the applicant as possible. So NAICS codes, sector codes, they are Industry Canada codes essentially, that we ask people to fill out and we collate so we get a better understanding of our local economy. That really tiny list is just a small section of the new business names that opened in town this year, just for purpose sake. But what has been a very manual, paper-based process to date is being rejuvenated, refreshed, revolutionized, if you will, through a 2025 budget approval from the former council, what we call e-permitting. And that's partly why James is here as well today. But we have opportunities in our business licensing system. So we know the reasons for it. We're trying to communicate the reasons of why they exist better, because businesses do ask that question. But getting more data is going to be key to us informing ourselves, informing our local economic partners, making grant applications, advocating, et cetera. It allows us more engagement opportunities. I think we have the opportunity through our business license process to engage with businesses on a more frequent and targeted basis. And we have the opportunity to make the process more efficient for everyone. And that's what e-permitting wishes to do. And that's not to mention the larger issues upcoming for council right now. On the smaller end of those large issues, the Storefront Improvement Program and all things MVP and how that could be leveraged to better serve local economic development. We have the economic development strategy, which will be the first large project that this council will take on in the new year. And then we have our regional exercises. Some of you were in Innisfail this past Friday, whether it be EDAC, RBSN, or Central Alberta First. A lot of tools in the toolbox and irons in the fire, so to speak. But the reason we're here today, because a very small but important part of our economic development efforts and certainly business licensing is the e-permitting software and the need to amend the business license bylaw slightly to introduce that e-permitting software, as it does change some of the parameters of how we currently conduct our traditional business license process. So I'll turn it over to James for that part, but because I'm done here, any questions on what I just shared there before James bores you with the details? No offense, James.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and just through you to CO Williams, just for a little clarification. When you talked about the temporary businesses and out-of-town businesses, so for example, our two new apartment buildings per se that are going up, and I noticed that they've utilized a lot of the tradespeople within the municipality, which I think is great, providing that the tradesmen are there to help them. So anybody else that's coming from out of town then is required to purchase a business license as well. And that would also include those individuals who show up on your doorstep at supper time. They should also be getting a temporary business license as well. And if those individuals per se are not, then maybe it's up to our residents to do some a little policing and notify us if they happen to have someone such as that come to their door to ensure that they are properly licensed as well, correct?
Go ahead,
And-
CO.
Thanks. And through the chair, that's correct. Everyone who does business in Olds is required to have a business license of some standing. It is the honor system, obviously with e-permitting and the ability to move away from our 850 cell Excel file. We're going to be able to better track and compare, say, development permits or building permits against our business license list. But for especially mobile vendors, for example, whether it be window washing companies, solar installers, et cetera, as many of you get door knocked, I'm sure. Yeah, I think I would always encourage a local citizen to just ask them to produce the business license. That is a requirement that they be able to show us they have it. Actually, coincidentally, one of the amendments today is trying to make it a bit more flexible for them to, how they show it digitally, for example, as opposed to having to paste it on their shirt. But it is a requirement that they are licensed to do business here.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. And I think my question was answered through Councillor Blatz's question. I wanted clarification around this resident-only business license, which I believe the CEO has provided. But so if we have a trade that lives in Calgary that's working in town here, they need to have a business license for the town of Olds then, correct? Or am I missing something?
Through the chair, Councillor Wilson, that's correct. Now, depending on the length of stay or duration, it does change the type of business license potentially. But if the business is not incorporated in Olds, and it, for example, operates full-time in Olds, and it's incorporated even across the 100 meters that way, yes, it would be a non-resident business.
Thank you. Councillor Krush?
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to CAO Williams. You kind of joked that the business licenses were a contentious issue. Are there communities that don't require a business license to operate within their boundaries?
Through the chair, short answer, yes. Longer answer, nothing comparable to the town of Olds or even smaller than us. In my experience, rural municipalities, counties, and municipal districts oftentimes don't. Unless you get into the specialized municipalities like the Strathcona counties or Rocky View counties, where they have large urban centers within their incorporation, and then very small villages as well. I've seen villages of 200 to 300 not have a business license because there might only be a handful of businesses, but it is near uniform in towns. I would say, for the sake of argument, 1,000 population and up to cities.
Good, thank you. All right. Back over to Manager Krush.
Yeah, I'll turn over to James now for
Manager
the topic
James.
at hand.
Thank you, Mayor Daly. As Brent, our CAO, has alluded to, we're bringing forward an amendment to bylaw 2020-09, which is our business license bylaw, to try and modernize some aspects of it, primarily around the use of paper. So we're looking at revising two sections that both speak to essentially business licenses being paper only. Through this e-permitting software that we're implementing, the software issues essentially an electronic license. And the intention is to change the bylaw, A, so that that is possible within the bylaw, and B, to allow businesses to not have to post the physical license anymore. They would just have to be able to provide and show that they still have a business license, which can be done through electronic means, and you can access it anywhere on any device at any time. So in a nutshell, that is the intent of the amendment. The amendment will also save some amount of money on the postage side of things. For example, we currently spend around $1,000 annually sending everybody their physical business license. We also spend about 100 hours processing those physical business licenses. So we're hoping through this that we find some efficiencies both on the staff time side of things as well as the cost saving side of things as well. There is some more detail in the RFD, but I think that covers the high notes, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Through you to Manager Crozier there. The posting of the licenses, that gives a lot of citizens some, I guess, sense of comfort that this is an official organization running properly. Is there going to be some kind of way for citizens to look up to make sure that a business has their license so that they can verify them if they feel the need? Thanks.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Taylor. So the town will still provide hard copies if a business requests it and want to post it. If the business gives their permission, they're also advertised in our business directory that they can look up, or a concerned citizen can contact the town and we can provide them with the information whether or not they do in fact have a license. And then as part of the bylaw, if the owner of the business is requested to provide that license and show it, they are required to do that as well. So there's several avenues in which somebody can still have that degree of confidence that that business is permitted.
Go ahead, supplemental.
Thanks, Mayor Daly. Is that going to be some kind of self-serve function of this new digital application, or is this still going to be consuming staff time for these kind of requests? Thanks.
As far as the printing of the license, or as far as somebody phoning in to inquire?
Somebody inquiring about business license.
So if the business has given their permission to be on the business directory, that is a self-serving thing. If they are not on that business directory, or if we receive a phone call, that would consume some staff time. However, to be honest, we still receive a fair amount of those phone calls as is, especially on those door-to-door salesman type things. So I don't foresee that being an increase per se in staff time.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All right, so it looks like today we're going to be looking for all three readings of this bylaw as well as the unanimous consent. So if there's no further comments, who would like to start us off on the motions? Councillor Krush.
I make a motion that bylaw 2025-19, amendment to the business license bylaw 2020-09, be given first reading as presented.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Who would like, Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daly. I move that bylaw 2025-19, amendment to the business license bylaw 2020-09 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I make the motion that bylaw 2025-19, amendment to business license bylaw 2020-09 be given unanimous consent for third reading.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And for third and final reading, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I move that bylaw 2025-19 amendment to business license bylaw 2020-09 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you again. And all in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, so that takes us down. Thank you for your presentation, Manager Cruiser. Takes us down to page 128. Sorry, 131, bylaw 2025-20 rates. CAO Williams for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and Director Lindeman is going to lead us through this one as well.
Thank you. So today we're looking for all three readings of our rates bylaw. Included in the rates bylaw are those rates that are legislated that must be in a bylaw as opposed to a policy as you approved earlier today. In your agenda package in the RFD, it outlines the changes made to the schedules. So Schedule A, the Assessment Review Board, no changes were made. Schedule B previously was cemetery rates. Those were removed from this bylaw and added to the rates policy that you've already approved today. The new Schedule B, protective services rates, we are increasing the police collision reports to $40 and the addition of a drone response fee. Schedule C, the corporate services rates, we increased our tax certificates, both the online and manual versions, by $5, and then just changed wording from FOIP to the new access to information. Schedule D, a small change to the SDAB appeal rate from $300 to $1,000 and a 50% refundable if successful clause. And then under Schedule E, the water and wastewater solid waste rates, we've already gone through those today. I won't say them all out again, but those are all the changes being presented today.
Thank you very much for that, Director Lindeman. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And just a comment I wanted to make for the people in our gallery and for the general public that's listening to today's meeting. As far as the water rate increases, I do see under correspondence that included in there is the letter of explanation from the Mountain View Regional Water Commission that explains the reasoning and justification for the significant and very significant increase to our water rates this year. So I just wanted to point that out to people so that they would have the opportunity to review that letter if they feel the need to.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Really good point there. Any other comments? Councillor Kouch.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Director Lindeman. We've been bombarded with acronyms in the last couple months. Can you clarify SDAB appeal rate? That seems to be the one that's somewhat significant, but I'm a little confused at what that is.
That one is the subdivision appeal board, and that's within planning department.
Supplemental.
So that would be if somebody's development permit was rejected, then they wanted us to take a second look at it, they would be paying that fee.
Correct, and it goes to a separate committee, and we have to pay for that, and that is why we have a fee attached to that.
Good. Any other comments or questions? All right, so I look to Councillor Overwater for our first motion.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that the first reading be given to bylaw 2025-20 rates bylaw.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Okay, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Councillor Cook, please, for the second.
Yep, I move that the second reading be given to bylaw 2025-20 rates bylaw.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Who would like to make the unanimous? Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that unanimous consent be given to present bylaw 2025-20 rate bylaw for third reading.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And for third reading, Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I move that the third reading be given to bylaw 2025-20, bylaw rates bylaw.
Thank you. Comments? None? All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us down to correspondence. Section 6, page 149 of our agenda. Is there any questions or comments from the correspondence that's included in your package today? I'm just getting down there now. Refresh my memory. Go ahead, Councillor Overwater.
Just a question regarding the Mountain View Senior Housing, the bus. Are we looking into the bus?
Go ahead, Councillor Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Councilor Overwater. I have, after this budget meeting with the Boys and Girls Club, and so I'm going to broach that subject lightly and see if they can give me any kind of idea whether that's a possibility to use their bus. And then I'll bring that back in January, depending on what they say.
Great.
Thank you very much for that. That would be a great solution for the meantime. Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the correspondence that we've been given? None? All right. Could I get a motion then to accept the correspondence? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I make the motion that the correspondence and information report ending December 8, 2025 be received for information.
Thank you for that. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, takes us down to section 7, Chief Administrative Officer Report, page 170, and I'll turn it over to CEO Williams for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Just something brief within the agenda package is the November report of problem data. Slight uptick year over year between November 2024 and very large increase, as you can see, year to date, 2024 to 2025, which is positive as more citizens engage with us through our report of problem website link, which again is back-ended by our citywide software and integrates into our work order system quite nicely. So, and we'll be providing council a overall update introduction to that software, just as an FYI. Into the actual wraps submitted, water led the way with 16 total, and this was largely driven, well, with a couple leaks, as you may have seen as well, but our water meter replacement program, we generally get questions at the start of the program if our contractor MeterCore is legitimate, as they get letters and phone calls. So that was the bulk of this, and then some things after the fact with missed appointments. But overall, things in the water, this phase 2 of the water meter replacement program, going quite well. I think we are 250 installed, another 250 booked, and work ongoing there. On the just verbal side of my report, just some updates and shout outs. Many of us attended some facet of Old Fashioned Christmas weekend before last. Remarkably cold, but still very well attended, all things considered. Great, huge kudos to staff, our community development department that put that on, along with Olds Fire Department and our municipal enforcement department and the RCMP and everyone else who had a hand in that. Another huge thanks to our sponsors. First time this year really going after that. Canadian Tire was our titled sponsor, and Mountain View Power was another one, along with other local businesses. It was great to see them support this, and look forward to making this a even better event. And it's great to see people show up despite the frostbite. The annual boot drive and charity hockey game, which some of you may have seen or attended either or last week. I believe the total raised for the Christmas Angels was around $10,000 between both efforts. So kudos to the Olds Fire Department, to the RCMP, and everyone who either stood outside collecting money in a boot or playing in the charity hockey game. So, and last note on water, you'll see some repairs done already. I believe there's a hole being dug in the near future. We're finding more and more water leaks, fortunately, unfortunately, as the frost gets further down into the ground. So you'll see a lot of activity even in these freezing temperatures of us digging holes for repairs that just can't wait till spring. It's an unfortunate thing, but something we fully expect, and we like when we get to see problems at the surface before we have to find out about them through other means. So just an update on there, and a lot of these finds have been through our new water meter programs, which are now in the northeast quadrant of town being rolled out, and we're seeing multiple leaks identified, mainly in service connections, fortunately not in our mains at the moment, but another valuable piece of data that we're learning more every day about how much more work we have to do. So with that, I had nothing else to add from my end, but happen to take any questions on the topics I mentioned or anything else council had curiosity on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Kush.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to CAO Wilson. We received correspondence from you for, with a couple of videos of some leaks. Can you run me through what happens, hypothetically, you find a leak and it's on my side of the line as a homeowner? Can you run me through what happens, the correspondence to the homeowner? Basically, what am I going to go through if you find a leak in my front yard?
And through the chair, a very good question. So when we get our daily report from our water meter software or an alarm that triggers, which has been happening more frequently, we investigate. That investigate can involve two main activities. One is our acoustic sonic technology, where we listen to water valves, preferably like late at night, to hear if we can pinpoint a leak in the system, because leaking water makes a sound. The other piece is, the other option is to stick a camera into our sanitary lines, which are generally 6 inches or larger in diameter, and see if we can pinpoint where water is getting into the sanitary. Water pipes are generally in heightened or proximity, but they travel significantly, and this is how we, I would say, more recently have found a few leaks. The video I sent you, Council, last week of this sanitary infiltration was coming from a water service connection, and in that particular case, we were able to run our sanitary camera into this service connection, sanitary service connection, and identify quite accurately through there that the leak was on the homeowner side of the curb stop. So how our bylaws read and how practice is carried out here and every town and city I'm aware of, that if the leak occurs on a service connection, we use the curb stop as that point. If the curb stop's broken, it's 50-50 responsibility of the homeowner, responsibility of the town to see that repaired. If it's on our side, we assume full responsibility for getting that repaired. If it's on the homeowner's side, the inverse, that they're responsible for that. So when we identified the homeowner's leak, our staff was on site, obviously. We informed the homeowner that this is the case, and homeowner insurance does generally cover this utility service repair, and it's obviously on them if they contact that, but we install a temporary service connection line, so we shut off the curb stop, so we stop the leak. We install a temporary line to the home, and we ask them to schedule. We give them a list of contractors who we use. We ask them to schedule that repair, which is at their cost as well. So hopefully that answers your question on the process.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the CEO. Do you happen to know off the top with the snow accumulations that we had, are we close to activating any kind of a formal snow removal on residential other than the uptown, which we did a week or two ago? Thanks.
We'd be getting close on our red routes, I do believe. I can't tell you how close based on precipitation numbers, but yeah, red routes will be getting close based on snowpack, I would imagine. And seeing the forecast for this week, certainly by Friday, it looks like something will be activated. Have you been hearing anything, any feedback on snow clearing at all?
For me, no, nothing, and it seems to be packing fairly well, and the uptown clearance went relatively well, so no, I haven't heard anything.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I received a message earlier today from Director Pedro with our work order system and trying to fine tune that service level costing, if you will. With the uptown activation last week, it was only a 5.5 hour activation, so relatively quickly. Given the proximity of our new snow dump, as we call it, behind the emergency shelter, which is town land. Contractor and internal staff and equipment costs, we ballparked in total for that 5.5 hour response around $8,000, which fits with our original estimate that for a full day of snow clearing, which would be generally 8 to 10 hours, it's around $13,000 to $14,000 to activate. So when our snow clearing service level was adjusted a few years ago, just for information's sake, we were seeing budget overages in the realm of 6 figures, largely. So we were trying to adjust that down because it takes 21 days to clear town on a full snow event. You do the math that if we be generous and $10,000 a day in costs at 21 days, it doesn't. I can't remember what we actually budget for contracted services and snow clearing. $140,000. So it gets eaten up pretty quickly. So hence the more hesitancy that we're more relying on. It's winter in Alberta, and we want to make sure it's safe but a reasonable service level. But as we hear through our budget survey, as you probably heard and will hear, campaign trail and in general engagement, it's always a hot topic, and it's something we'll always have to keep an eye on that service level. But the more information we give you with what it change that service level from its current X amount of centimeters or X amount of snowpack. Good discussion to have as much information as we do. So.
Excellent, thank you. Any further questions to see? I just want to comment that it's really good news to hear that those water meters are catching those leaks, and you know, if what we've seen on those 2 films that CAO Williams shared with us, you think about that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that water is running like that, and you can see why we get up in the costs for water loss in this town when you find 2 fairly close leaks like that. So that's great news that those water meters are detecting that stuff. It's really great news.
Yeah, I guess I should add, just for new councillors' sake, for the past previous years, just water loss alone above our revenue that we built out was over $500,000 just in water loss alone. And as you saw in that video, a lot of the potable water from water line leakage is going right into our sanitary, which then gets sent to Red Deer. So we're getting hit twice with it as well. So oftentimes when we can repair a water leak, we're also reducing our I&I as well. So it's like in addition to, you know, debt management, water loss and I&I is our number one challenge and focus. Best return on investment, if you will.
Perfect, yeah, I would agree. Councillor Grush.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you. One quick question before we wrap up. This reported problem data, June 2025, 200% increase in reports. I'm going to assume that was the naturalization project coming online?
Through the chair, yes, June would have been the high time for those complaints. And we had a very wet early start to the spring, and our back alleys took a beating as well. I believe the naturalization was number 1. Not far behind it were rain-related issues, overland flooding, back alley maintenance or issues. So yeah, those 2 issues for sure what comes to mind.
Good, thank you. All right, no further comments, questions? Could I get a motion on the floor then, please? Counselor Taylor?
Mr. Daly, I move that the Chief Administrative Officer's report be accepted for information.
Thank you very much. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, motion is passed. Takes us down to item 8, adjournment. I would like to adjourn the meeting at 3:06 p.m. as we have exhausted our agenda items. So thank you everyone for your comments and your questions today, and thank you to the gallery and those people watching online. Have a Merry Christmas and a happy season coming forward. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.